Well, hello there. I didn't see you come in. Make yourself at home. Have a drink. While I give some attention to some underappreciated characters and storylines that I personally love. And I hope you grow to love as well. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Hellblazer podcast, where I, Matt Hansen, go through every issue of the series Hellblazer, the original 300 issues from Vertigo and DC Comics. And this is the free version of the podcast. We have a Patreon where we are about 30 episodes ahead. So if you can't get enough of John Constantine the Hellblazer, then go check us out at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And you can sign up for our Hellblazer tier, which will give you access to all the episodes of the Hellblazer podcast. And we will always be about 30 issues ahead of wherever we're at in this free one. So, like I said, if you need more Hellblazer in your life, definitely go check that out. Once again, you can find that at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And with that, let's get into the podcast. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Matt's Minis Hellblazer. Today, we are reading Hellblazer number 4. And if you remember last issue, Hellblazer fought some demon yuppies that were, I guess, making deals with people for their souls, unwittingly. And he defeated them and stopped that thing going on. But we did kind of see the state of England at the time, which is kind of what that was about, just kind of showing the materialism and everything going on. So this one, the cover of this is Hellblazer. He's in looks like a house that's all creepy with like spider webs and stuff. And there's a little girl who looks like she's very sad, and she kind of has like a flowing dress on. She's holding flowers. Also, before we start, just a warning, this one does have like child abuse and things in it. So if you are sensitive to things like that, just know that this one has stuff that happens to kids in it. So we start off with a girl. Her name is Gemma. She's sitting on a hill, and she's talking about how she hates this place that her mom and dad have moved to. She says they were much happier living on their old street where her friends and her uncle were. And even though her dad was on the dole, which is like, I guess, food stamps or government assistance, at least the old house was dark and cozy with nice, warm, secret smells. So, like, she just likes her old house, of course, and does not like this new one. And then she talks about how her dad moved out to the suburbs because he's part of something called the Resurrection Crusade, which is apparently some kind of combination of religious fanaticism and a pyramid scheme. So, like, I guess, you know, if you get people to join the church, you get money, and then you're like over these people that are joining, and then they can recruit people. So it's like one big pyramid scheme, but it's for like a religious organization. And so we cut to Constantine. He's in a pool room playing pool, and he just happens to get a really, really hard trick shot. And someone's like, "Oh my gosh, magic shot, John. How did you do that?" And he has to pay Constantine, and it's like, magic. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So apparently he's using magic to cheat at pool, possibly. And then we see his buddy Chaz is here, and Chaz is kind of, I don't think he's been introduced before. Basically, he's like a grown man who's friends with Constantine, whose wife hates Constantine, and but he drives a taxi, and he's supposed to always be driving that for money, but constantly Constantine is asking him, "Hey, can I get a ride? Like, just turn your sign off. I just need to get here or there or whatever." And so, like, yeah, he's always fucking with his time and money because he's a taxi driver. And so Chaz here is playing, I guess it's like a slot machine that's, I guess, in the bar. And Hellblazer comes up to him and is like, "Hey, you get anything yet?" And he's like, "No." And like, "I can't believe I'm losing. Like, my wife's on me about money and stuff. And like, I don't need this." And Constantine does something, and he's like, "I think your luck's about to turn around, old chum." And then the machine just starts like pouring out quarters because apparently Constantine has made it hit the jackpot. So he uses his magic to assist his friend there. And then Constantine's like, all right, I'm going to head out for the night. And as he's coming home, he sees some boys that are like putting graffiti on the walls of this neighborhood. And we see they're writing British boys and then kill. And I'm not going to say this word because I think it's a slur, but basically kill Middle Eastern people. And so, yeah, Constantine, in the last issue we saw, these boys are around and they're kind of like racist gangs. But they don't fuck with Constantine. Like one of them bumped into him and he's like, watch it, kid. And they were like, what? You're going to talk to us like that? And I guess that kid was new because the other kid that was with him was like, no, we don't fuck with John Constantine. So apparently he's got a reputation with these kids because they don't fuck with him even when he grabs the spray paint can and sprays the kid's face like right in the eyes with it. And he's like, too bad it wasn't mace. And then we see as he's rounding the corner, he gets like a premonition from something that's going to happen on the other side of this corner. So he like I don't think he thinks it's bad, but he kind of approaches and turns the corner and he sees this girl. Now in nowadays dress, it's not that crazy, but the way she's drawn, she's supposed to look, I think, like a punk, like Debbie Harry from Blondie or something, I think is what they're going for. But like she's got like a zebra shirt on and a lot of jewelry, and I don't know, she just looks like she's got like attitude. And so she was apparently painting as well, and what she painted on the wall was a very creepy maybe premonition that she's having of a man standing over a little girl sitting in front of him. And this, I don't know, it just looks very ominous. So we see the name of this issue is called Waiting for the Man. And it is written by Jamie Delano and the art is by John Ridgway. Then we cut back to Gemma, who's sitting on a swing on the hill again. And she's talking about like, oh yeah, her parents have joined this new thing called the Resurrection Crusade. And so they're being super religious. Like she says her dad's taken away all her Madonna cassettes, and they won't let her watch TV, and because basically they're saying it's like a Satanist stuff on the TV, like everything is Satan. So as she's swinging, she's like kind of getting madder and madder, and just feeling more and more like disillusioned by everything, and she's even thinking to herself, you know, what if I got kidnapped and like killed? That would serve him right. And as she's kind of thinking about that, like a creep kind of kidnapping her and how they would feel if that happened. Then all of a sudden someone comes up behind her and says, hello, what's your name then? And we think it's going to be, you know, a guy or whatever, but it's actually three girls. And they're like, oh, what's your name and everything. So they introduce themselves to her, and she tells them her name is Gemma. And then they ask, do you live around here? And Gemma's like, yeah, but yeah, my dad's super bossy, so we don't want to go around there. And they're like, oh, well, our house isn't far, and we can do whatever we like, as long as he says it's all right. And Gemma's like, who's he? And they're like, it's his house where we live. We're married to him. We're all married to him. And Gemma's like, all of you? And they're like, yeah. It's great. You should come visit. And I guess because she's so lonely right now and she feels so isolated from moving out here, and I think a little bit of magic is going on as well. She goes with these girls just to meet the guy who is married to all three of them. When I say girls, I literally mean like they're maybe 12 or 11. So these are all very young children, and then we cut back to Constantine, who is now being fully introduced to the girl that he met that looked like Debbie Harry. Her name is Zed, and they're at some Indian restaurant, and they're just talking to each other, kind of flirting-ish, but getting to know each other. And it's obvious they have like some good chemistry. So she just says like, do you fancy me or not? Like, she's just straightforward. And he's like, well, why? You got somewhere we could go? Like, you got a place we could stay close by? And she's like, well, what's wrong with your place? And he's just like, and she's like, well, I'm not going to marry you. Just like, let's fucking go whatever's closest. So, and then we cut back to the little girls, and they're taking Gemma to their house, and she's like, oh my God, this is like a very weird looking house. It's very dirty, and it's not, it's basically like a abandoned home. Like it's a building that's been abandoned and they live there apparently. And she's like, oh, it's dirty. And then she, I guess, reads the room and sees that they're kind of like offended by that. She's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then they say like, he doesn't like it too tidy. You'll get used to it. You won't notice the smell either once you're married. And basically, they're kind of like getting her or like grooming her to be married to this guy. They're talking about like how wonderful it is to be married to him, and she's gonna love it too. But like, let's go to sleep. Why don't we go to sleep together in the same bed and wait for him to come home because he's not here right now. So they all get ready for bed, and then Gemma notices as they kind of go into the all fit into the bed together that there's a mark on one of their necks, and she's like, oh, what's that? What's that mark on your neck? And she's like, oh, this? And it's like very obviously a strangulation with like a rope mark. And the girl is like, oh, this is my wedding ring. We've all got one. Don't worry. It only hurts for a moment. Then it's really nice. Which is also kind of an illusion because she's talking about like a wedding night. It's like alluding to, I guess, losing your virginity or whatever. So it's a very creepy, very weird thing to say in that situation. So, but this whole issue is very creepy. So then we cut back to Zed and Constantine, and they're walking into Zed's house. She's kind of showing him like what she does. She's like an artist, of course, and she's got like a bunch of people's heads on the wall that she's painted, and she's like, oh, every one of these people I've seen, and one of them is Constantine. And so basically we kind of find out she's a little like psychic-ish, and she can have like visions and things, so, and just kind of pick people out who are important. And then on the radio we hear that there's like a news interruption that's like, there's a police search that's going underway after 10-year-old Gemma Masters failed to return home this evening. So far 4 children have disappeared in this city this month. Then Constantine kind of like freaks out and is like, oh my God, I have to leave right now. Can you drive? Because of course Constantine can't drive, so he's got to have someone drive him. And she's like, but I don't have a car. And he's like, don't worry, I have a car I can get to, but that's my sister's kid. So that's why he was freaking out so much. It is actually his niece Gemma that is kidnapped. So then we cut to suburban Liverpool, it says, where Gemma's parents lived. Their names are Tony and Cheryl, and Cheryl is hysterical, like just freaking out as you would be, like throwing shit. And we see in the background there's like these men in suits, and they are part of the Resurrection Crusade. And she's like, Cheryl's like, why is this happening? And then the dad's like, don't worry, it'll be fine. The Crusaders are going to help us out. They're God's warriors. They're securing the area and everything. And the Crusaders in the background, I guess the front one who's like kind of like in charge, he's like, don't worry, ma'am. Thousands of your fellow Crusaders are linked in the pyramid of prayer, and they're praying for your child's return. And she's like, I don't give a fuck about this. She's like, they're like, rest yourself, child. Trust in the Lord. And she's like, no, I'm not a child. I'm a mother. Some pervert's got Gemma, and he's doing God knows what to her. And then the head of the Crusaders says, then we must pray, because a demon of hell has attacked a sinful weakness in the stockade of righteousness. Meaning, basically, this girl has like a sinful nature or whatever, and that's why there was an opening for a demon to get there. And she's like, are you saying it's her fault, you mealy-mouthed bastard? And she like smacks the shit out of him. And Tony's like, Cheryl, don't. And then the guy from the Crusades like adjusting his glasses, and he's like, you should restrain her, brother. She should know her place or whatever. So that then fucking Tony is like, don't talk to Elder Barton like that, Cheryl. And she's like, what the fuck did you just say? And then she runs away because obviously he's not supporting her at all. He's like going along with this religious cult people. And she runs away with him and says, or runs away from him and says, stay away from me, you traitor. So it seems like Tony is a very spineless man. So then we cut to the freeway where it says they're halfway there, and it's John Constantine in a cab with Zed driving, and basically he's just like, yeah, she flies. She drives very, very, very fast, which of course is good at this moment. She's like, your friend wasn't too keen to lend you his car, and of course they're talking about Chaz. So he just like called Chaz in the middle of the night and was like, hey, I'm gonna borrow your taxi, don't worry about it. And he's like, he should be out earning a living, but his missus will give him hell, but you know, he still owes me a favor. And that's because he says he owes him a favor because he did some magic on that machine, even though Chaz didn't ask for it. So he's kind of a dick to Chaz, we'll say. And then they kind of flirt back and forth for a little bit while they're driving. And then she's like, okay, anyway, enough of flirting. And we kind of learn a little bit like how cheeky he is with people, even people he's just met like her. But then she starts asking about his niece. And he's like, oh, yeah, she's like great. You know, her name's Gemma. She's awesome. And her mom's pretty sound, too. We've always had a good relationship. But that husband of hers, he's like a fucking idiot who got them into some like really weird fundamentalist cult sect that's like a pyramid scheme. Just tells her everything that he hates about the guy. And then he's just like, you know what? Enough talk. I think I'll have a nap. And she's like, what am I, a fucking bloody taxi driver? And so he like literally just like, I'm going to take a nap. I'm tired now before we get there. Figured might as well calm before the storm, you know, take a rest because who knows what they're going to find. Then we cut back to Gemma and she is sleeping, but she wakes up because she hears a noise. I believe she can see some lights coming through the boarded up windows of this house. And I think that is the man coming home. The husband, we'll say. And she gets up, and as she gets up, she's like crying because she's sad, because she starts thinking about like something doesn't feel quite right. She can't remember arriving at this place. And for a moment, she remembers her mom and dad, who she's left behind, and she's sad. And so that's why she starts crying. But then the other little girls appear behind her with a wedding dress and like, come on, it's your big day. And so they get her dressed in a wedding gown, and they're like, wow, you look picture perfect. He's going to really fall for you, which is super fucking creepy. And nothing's creepier than a 10-year-old in a wedding dress. So then we cut back to Constantine, who just pulls up to his sister's house, and there's already like police there and stuff. And they just park, and the policeman's like, get out of here. And he's like, fuck off. And so they walk into the house, and Cheryl's like, you know, in tears. And she's like, oh, my God, thank you, John. I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do. And this fucking guy's useless or whatever. And so we see he walks in, and Tony is right there in the living room with the Resurrection Crusade guys. And he just comes in, and he's like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do a bit of divining and I should be able to tell you where she is. And they're like, no, we forbid it. No black arts in this house. And Constantine's loving it. He's loving seeing them like bristle at him. And he's like, I don't give a toss what you think. Gemma's missing and I'm going to find her and you're going to stay out of my way. Got it? And so like basically divining is where you get a trinket from someone that meant a lot to them, and then you can hover it over a map and it will like kind of be pulled to where the general area where they're at. And so he takes a little gift that he had given her of a wooden crocodile that he had bought her from Senegal. And so he takes that little toy and ties it a piece of string to it and then hovers it above a map. And then in the meantime, Zed just automatically starts grabbing paper and a pen and starts drawing. And it turns out she's also like a seer, I guess, because she has like a bit of a psychic ability. And so she kind of is drawing something she sees, which is a house. It is the house that Gemma is at. So now they know the general area where she is and what the house looks like. So they are like rushing out of there to find Gemma. And then we cut back to Gemma, who is sitting in the chair in the living room as the girls talk to her and try to get her ready for being married. And she's just like in a weird trance. That's every time the girls appear, there's like a weird trance happening. So I think she's getting kind of not possessed, but like there's definitely magic or a spell going on that's causing her to be like taken advantage of by I guess a spirit or these spirits. And it says she's excited and scared. It'll be different soon. They say when she's married and has a husband, she'll be one of them. So they're trying to like reassure her. And then this guy walks through the door and he literally looks like the fucking Kurgan from Highlander. This dude is not a romantic fellow, we'll say. And he's just super big. He's got like army green pants on and a sleeveless black shirt. And he just literally looks like a very tall fellow. So, and very like imposing. And he comes over and it's not like he's surprised or anything. He was like ready for this. To see a 10-year-old in a wedding dress by the time he got there, and he looks at her and he's like, "What's your name, pretty one?" And she tells him, and then he's like, "Will you marry me, Gemma, and stay forever?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Then come down the stairs and we'll have the ceremony." And then we cut back to John and Zed, and they're like canvassing the neighborhood. They're looking everywhere, but they're not seeing anything that looks like the house that she drew. And Constantine's getting all mad. He's like, "Why didn't you draw more detail? Like, you couldn't have found like a street number or some shit like in your vision?" And she's like, "It doesn't work like that." And he's like, "I know, I'm sorry. I'm just freaking out because it's my, niece." And then he sees a kid and he's like, "Hey kid, you know where this house is?" And the kid's like, "For a $5, I'll tell you." And so this little kid gets $10 out of this deal, but he shows Constantine where the house is. He won't go by the house though. He's like, "I'm not going to walk over there, but that's where it is because it's a creepy house." And so, and then Constantine's like, "Well, take this money as well, and it's for you. Just go tell the cops where this place is." So he tells the kid where to run over to, where all the cops are at Cheryl's house. And then they go to walk into the creepy fucking abandoned home. Then we cut back to where the ceremony's going on in the basement of that home. And there's a fucking cross with a goat's head on the top of it. And it's very obvious that this is like a full demonic ritual going on. And that is probably why, Gemma was so easily brought here. And specifically, he starts saying, "Master, guardian of the spurned souls, protector of the damned, we supplicants beseech you." And so basically, it's like some spell he's doing that's beseeching, I am assuming, a demon of like wayward kids or something, because that's why I think that's why he was able to get Gemma. Any kids that kind of feel disillusioned or forgotten, or like misunderstood, they are easier to get tricked, I guess we'll say, by whatever spirit he's praying to. And that's like how they're easily brought here and kind of convinced to become this guy's wife, in quotation marks. And so he finishes his like whole little ritual, and then he says, "All right, now it's time to receive the devil's benediction, my dear." And she kneels down in front of him, and he gets his ceremonial rope, I guess is what he's got, and he's about to put it around her neck, and then tie the knot, as it says, which is another allusion to in marriage you tie the knot, and in this he's about to choke her. So and then we see that Constantine and Zed are upstairs. They don't know that there's a basement, and they walk up the stairs, assuming, probably they're in the bedroom. And when they get to the bedroom, they pull off the covers, but not before they get hit with a very, very pungent smell of death. And we see that the three girls who originally lured Gemma there are actually dead. So he has already strangled these three girls. They have been spirits or ghosts that are, I guess, probably supernaturally by this ritual that he's doing, like stuck in this realm and probably forced to collect other girls for him to strangle. Then we get back to the basement where Gemma is now being strangled, and she's having flashes in her head of what the girls were saying, like, it only hurts for a minute, then it's really nice, and this is what she's been waiting for, marriage, her wedding ring. And luckily, Constantine, when he was upstairs, realized, wait a second, there's a basement. And he rushes down and finds the guy strangling his niece. And Constantine yells out, no, let her go, now. And surprises the guy. And the guy, it says, he discards her carelessly like a forgotten toy. So he basically just drops her and she just flops to the ground. So she kind of already looks like she's dead. And then Constantine realizes that this dude is gigantic, and he's like, Christ, he's a big bastard. And the guy whips a plate at his head. It might be like the ceremonial dish, something that was on the altar. It smacks Constantine in the face, and then Constantine's like, God damn it, I should have brought a weapon. And the guy just starts coming at him and says, I know you're bad. You want to hurt me and take away my wives. Well, I won't let you have them. And he just starts beating the shit out of Constantine. And then the guy gets tapped on the shoulder, and it's Zed. And she's got some kind of alcohol bottle in her hand that's made of glass, but it's very thick probably. And she smashes his fucking face in. And then while he's like, freaking out because she probably broke his nose or whatever, Constantine says, when women fight, they don't pull punches. She makes a terrible mess of him. And even if I could get up, I wouldn't stop her. I'd probably join in. And it just shows her like beating his head in with hitting him in the back of the head with this bottle, and it breaks. And then she's like kicking his face while he's on the ground. And pretty much beats him until he's unconscious. And then Constantine, in the meantime, is going over to Gemma, and he's like, oh, please be okay. Please be okay. And it turns out she is alive, and he's like, oh, thank God. And so he takes her upstairs, and but first they look at this dude because like his shirt was ripped open, and the words "Damnation Army" are branded into his skin, and so that's like a foreshadowing for something going on in the town. And as they take Gemma outside, Gemma's mom Cheryl runs up, and it turns out Tony and the Crusaders and her are there. The cops have not arrived yet, and there's more Crusaders now, so it's not just the three guys that were in the house that had suits on. It's like, the full church is here. And they're like, stand aside, conjurer, when Constantine brings the girl in. And then Constantine's like lecturing the dad, like, you should be more careful with her, mate. Who are these crackpots? And then they're like, we are the strong arm of righteousness. We are agents of the divine retribution. And they all have weapons, and Constantine looks at them and he's like, I do as they say. It's unwise to get between a lynch mob and their quarry. And I'm not a masochist, so I avoid pain whenever possible. So then they basically burn this house down with the guy in it. So they murder him before the cops get there. And him and Zed slip away quietly, and they go to, I'm assuming like a motel or something, where they can get like a hot bath in the area. And so Constantine's like relaxing, and it's kind of weird because they're still kind of flirting even after that. And he's like, well, what you might call a hectic first date, huh, kid? And she's like, yeah, you really know how to show a girl a good time. And then he does something that I think is really gross, but apparently maybe this is something that people used to do, probably because hot water was rare maybe or something. But he's like, hey, I haven't even started yet. There's water in the water's hot if you want to get in. And she's like, yeah, I will. My flesh is still crawling. So I thought he meant like, you're going to get in the tub with me and we'll get like freaky or whatever. But he meant like, hey, you want to use the tub? I'm done with it. Which to me is really gross because that's his old bathwater. So, but I guess maybe it's supposed to be like, yeah, it's like a hot tub or something. So she's like, yeah, I'll use your old bathwater. So he gets out, he's in a towel or whatever, and she, as she's going to the bathroom, she gives him a kiss, and then goes into the washroom to get into the tub. And he starts to ask her some questions through the open door that's kind of like slightly cracked. And it's kind of like, looks like he's trying to peek in at her because you can see her get undressed in the mirror. And he's definitely looking. But he's asking her like, hey, you seem like a girl who has her ear to the ground, her finger on the pulse. Have you ever come across those bozos before? Meaning like the Resurrection Crusade people. And she's like, no, I hope I never do again. And so he actually like pushes the door a little wider open to get even a better view. And we think he's being creepy, but his inner dialogue is saying that basically he can tell she's kind of lying, because people who aren't afraid of the truth make terrible liars. So we know she's lying. And then he is apparently looking at her body, not because he wants to check out this new woman that he's kind of interested in. It's because he's checking out to see if she has any brands like that guy did on him that says that's a Damnation Army or whatever. But she sees him looking at her and she slams the door. So yeah, that's the end of that issue. And he kind of smiles cheekily as she shuts the door. And we see the next issue is called When Johnny Comes Marching Home. So that's it for this issue. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email me at planestrains and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com. And we will see you on the next one.